Episode 106, 5 differences between a boss and a true leader.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
We are back into a whole new week, really. And now that you all of you listeners out there, are real time management pros and have figured out all of the instruments and bells and whistles and followed the instructions of Friday's exercise in terms of time management and productivity maximization, I think it's time to welcome you to a similarly insane episode of the very best podcast in the world, your only source in the universe for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and happiness. Now, what are we going to do this week? Honestly, I have no fucking clue. But I've got a few interesting episodes in the closer proximity of becoming a publication to help you guys out and, kind of advance in life based on all of the shit that I've gone through, which was a lot. plentiful brown stuff. And so in that sense, today's episode is going to be based on experiences I have made with quote unquote superiors, right? And we are going to have to differentiate because there are two distinct features, two distinct characters, let's put it that way. You've got the boss type and you've got the true leader. The boss type is bottom down very clearly, normally has some type of psychological issue, and is really in the game to promote themselves rather than excelling or advancing the entire team that they work with. And this is important because if you've got this patriarchal asshole type that you work with, there's going to be a lot of backstabbing. There's only going to be him. It's very power focused, and the only magnet of power in that in that arrangement is them, right? You see this rather seldomly in women. You see it more often in men, at least from my experience. Women are more often than not much more socially focused. They're way better at focusing on problems and solving them with a team and recognizing that solving them by themselves is rather difficult. So then on the other hand, you've got this leadership personality, and that's where it gets interesting. These people are, they shine when things are successful, but they shine much brighter because they take their entire team into the spotlight and give the entire team credit for what the team was able to achieve, contrary to the other dude or gal, that neglects or pretty much pushes out of the focus that alone they wouldn't have been able to achieve the goal. So between these two different types of, for lack of better terms, for lack of better words, let's call them leadership styles, right? Because there's the totalitarian, power focused, and then you've got the kind of like the team and the and I wouldn't say family aspect, but it's like everybody's involved and everybody gets credit for what gets done. And in this episode, we're just going to briefly highlight 5 things that I've experienced, and I've worked with a lot of different people, and boy, have a lot of them had psych issues, right? So let's get started, right? So a boss creates fear and a leader creates confidence. And this brings me back to an interesting story of a psycho I had to work with when I worked for a hotel group in Asia. And this dude was within the organization prior. And it was like when it was announced that he was coming back, all of the employees were fear struck, about this guy returning. And you heard all of these weird stories, right? That he had his personal whorehouse, basically, and that nobody was allowed to go there, and that there was security posted, and that everybody who didn't play by his rules got fired immediately, and so on and so forth. And this was really, really interesting, So normally I am always, not normally, I'm always the type of person to give somebody a shot, no matter how mentally damaged they are. But this dude was out there. I mean, he had it was like, he was in his, I don't know, mid-50s probably. His wife, he was European. His wife was, cliche Southeast Asian, I think about mid-20s, if at all. And so anyhow, he would sit in his office working, supposedly, and his wife would sit across the room with open legs and just looking at him, admiring him for what a great person he was. And within the first meetings, it transpired that he was just very power focused and that he led by fear, right? And the thing is, he wasn't very successful because the only guys and the only personnel that he had working with him, they were all suck-ups. There was nobody there with an opinion. So what do you have left? You've got all of the people who won't land jobs elsewhere. So you've only got the suck-ups, right? That, say yes and amen to pretty much everything that he says, the course he directs, etc. He wasn't at all open for critique, or any other opinion beside his own. And so he didn't have employees. I called them minions, really, right? Because it was like this cabal of yaysayers running around him and making him feel important and that kind of ordeal. So anyhow, interesting character, but this guy was really inciting fear in everyone and thereby creating an atmosphere that was just dramatic. Now, he did up ending sacking me because I, in nice words, told him that he was a jerk. And that he wouldn't get the problems done by the way that he was going to. He didn't, he got sacked, I think, about a year later because he didn't perform the way he was supposed to. But anyhow, interesting story that happened there. A leader, on the other hand, creates confidence, right? I was on a project in Europe, and the team was very young and very inexperienced. A lot of them had just made it out of university and or college or whatever, and they didn't have a lot of experience. And it was insanely difficult because we were on a very strict deadline for a very huge and meaningful project, and it was difficult to get this work-life balance BS, which they had all heard in, podcasts and everything, out of their head, because we needed to finish this fucking project on time. So I said, look up, bitches. We can we can make it or break it, right? It's like if we all pull our ass cheeks together, then, and stay until late at night and start early in the morning. And, I said, we can make it. And, I did then honestly in a very brutal way said, look, I'm the last one to get up early. Right. It's one of the most hated things in my life is getting up fucking early, because the entire day is going to be fucked up for me. But, we're in this together. We got to deliver. And then, it was like, the project was a fucking charm. Everybody was totally engaged. And I don't know, I think some people even, fell asleep on the desk at 1 a.m. because they just couldn't tear it anymore. But everybody was there for everybody else. And, we had regular meetings outside of the office, just to make the atmosphere more rewarding, right? So I invited them for dinners out and club nights and whatever, and thereby basically bribed them into hanging in there. And then it came to the delivery of the project, and I was due to fly out one day earlier for another project. So I designated one of these young girls to present the entire thing together with the team, right? And I was there in a fucking conference call, just monitoring it. But boy, did they shine. Motherfucker. That was just such a great experience to really witness them, even though I was only there, in being able to listen to them. But it was so great that they felt the power and the dynamics of the team, and the entire team presented so well. And, it was just, wow, and it's about this confidence of being a team that you have to put in there, and, taking yourself out of the picture. That's a leader, right? And as opposed to this jerk off that I mentioned at the beginning of this example. Number 2, a boss fixes blame, a leader corrects mistakes. That's another very important thing to let sink in, right? A boss is going to go like, you failed because, and at the end of the day, it doesn't fucking matter who failed, right? If you look at the bigger picture, it's about, if one person fails, everybody suffers. Right? Because if it's just the mood, or if it's, whatever. However, if you have a mistake and you start fixing blame on people, it's pointless, right? If let's say you fuck something up and it takes 2 hours for that person to fix, and everybody chips in time with modern collaboration tools, that's not a problem. And if you're a tight team, everybody knows what everybody's doing. And if everybody chips in, it boils down to 1/4 of an hour to, to fix this mistake. And at the end of the day, the result is the same, only with the difference that you have motivated people rather than, one of the team members sitting there with hanging ears and droopy eyes because they fucked up and they had it rubbed into their skin, and it made them feel bad. Nobody makes mistakes on purpose, right? That's something you really have to be able to get into your head if you want to be a true leader. Number 3, a boss knows all, a leader asks questions. And let's get back to Mr. Jerkoff. So this dude was sitting there in I think weekly meetings. I don't know. I honestly forgot. It's been over a decade. And he was just sitting there. He knew how everything was done. He knew marketing. He knew tableware. He knew booking systems. He knew social media. He knew websites. He knew, I don't know what he knew everything. Right. And truth of the matter is, yeah, he had a fraction of knowledge about everything, but the in-depth knowledge was obviously missing, right? And so if you asked him questions, which I did, as somebody who would rather be counted as a leader, I said, look, how do you expect this to work when you're doing, I don't know what the question was, but he started barking at me in this meeting, and I was like, dude, settle down. I asked you a question, what's the problem? And I later figured out that, his presumed knowledge was just, a fraction of the depth that he proclaimed it to be. So, anyhow, that was his, authoritarian thing, barking at people if they dared to ask or to, to doubt his professional way of working, etc. And anyhow, it was interesting. And I'm more the person, if I ask questions, I want to know it. I want to have in-depth knowledge, because a leader is seldomly dependent on anything, right? It's like, if you see a true leader, they're going to be able to do their own invoicing. They're going to be able to do their own taxes. They're going to be able to, I don't know, iron their shirts. They're going to be very good at improvising and things like that. Leaders are seldomly dependent on anyone else. It doesn't mean that they hire services. It's like for me, right? You just don't have the time, but you know how it works in depth. You know how to iron a fucking shirt. Or if you don't, you have read somewhere that if you take a shower in the morning, you hang your suit and your shirt in there because it's just going to basically take the main wrinkles out, right? Things that you just learn along the way. While these boss types are, very incompetent when it comes to social and life skills, they're just going to be, I don't know what rides them. Anyhow, it's like this differentiation that, a boss knows all and a leader asks questions, and nothing is more true. Number 4, a boss makes work drudgery and the leader makes it interesting. And nothing is more true than that. The boss types are going to be stuck in their models of working and their very narrow point of view, right? So the bookkeeper can only do the bookkeeping, and the marketing person can only do marketing, and while they can do everything and replace everyone technically. But the really interesting thing in true leadership is involving everybody in the team to a degree where at least they understand what the other person is doing. It's the entire concept of compartmentalization, I think that's the correct word, is gone, right? Because there's very, very, very flat hierarchy. And that's like, okay, the leader is at the end of the day the person that, takes the kick in the ass if something goes south. So yeah, he's got responsibility, but everybody's sitting in the same boat, right? And so the hierarchy is very, very flat in that sense. And that is just why working with a true leader is more interesting, because they will share with you opinions and bounce stuff off your hand and question themselves in their understanding of things. Because, it's like, it's just in the nature of, being a true leader. You're interested in everything, right? And that's how I was able to learn so many things, because I was like, okay, I got to figure this out, right? And do it by myself, but I need to ask questions and address questions to the pros to then be able to understand what we're doing here, right? What the goal is. And yeah, it's just magic how these boss types are just usually too incompetent to tie their shoes. Really very interesting people. Last but not least, a boss is interested in himself, and a leader is interested in the group. And I'm going to cut this one short because we had addressed this earlier. A boss is going to be, your C-level executive type that, goes on the news and reports the numbers and does the thing, but there's hardly anyone that's going to be like that in the true leadership division. They're going to focus on their team and mention that, the television picture is too big for 200 people. That's what I always said. So you need to sit one person there, and that's going to be the responsible person, and that responsible person is going to convey the message on behalf of the team, period. And that's where these two people differentiate most. So that is a wrap. I would say we're going to pin this thing down now. If you know anyone that's into leadership skills, or the boss person that you want to kick in the ass a bit to change their demeanor, because life just gets much more better. If you have those boss types that are immune to criticism entirely, send them to a good therapist, because life as a leader is much better than it is as a boss. So share this episode with those people who can actually use it. I think everybody could really use a pep talk in terms of true leadership. And if you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, please do so. And in that sense, I hope that you're going to have a successful day. And for those of you who have a good night. And we'll be in touch tomorrow when we are going to be talking about fill in the blank. I have no fucking clue yet, but I'll figure it out tonight and be back tomorrow. The very best podcast in the world, Monday through Friday, noon GMT or UTC or whatever suits your fancy, because it's a podcast at the end of the day. Take care, and we'll be in touch tomorrow. Bye-bye now.